We're ready to work through 5-5, which we're going to do fractions, decimals, and the order of operations. So we're going to start by writing fractions as decimals, and all you have to do is divide the numerator by the denominator. And if we were just doing this by hand, we would continue the division process until the quotient is a terminating decimal. In other words, it shows you the end of the decimal, or a repeating pattern is recognized. We're just going to use our calculator to do this. We know that 3/5 is 3 divided by 5, so we're going to go to our calculator, and we're going to do 3 divided by 5, and that is 6/10. For this one, 68 divided by 25. So I'm going to put in my calculator, 68 divided by 25. And I'm getting 2 72/100. For the next one, 5 divided by 8 is, this is 3 5/8, so that's going to be 3 625 thousandths. 3/8, 3 divided by 8 would be 375 thousandths, and 12 5/16 would be 12 and 5 divided by 16. 3125, 125 ten thousandths. Sometimes you get these repeating decimals. In other words, when you divide, then the decimal places continue to repeat. So 4/9 is 4 divided by 9. And on my calculator, I'm getting 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. It repeats, the 4 repeats. So I'm going to write it with the bar over the repeating digits. The 4 is repeating. 3/22, 3 divided by 22. And I'm getting 0.136363636. So this is going to be equal to, the 3 and the 6 are what's repeating. So that's where the bar goes, over what's repeating. 8/9, 8 divided by 9. And I have 0.88888, and then it ends in a 9. And that's because my calculator is programmed to round when the display is full. So it would continue with 8s, and when you look at that last digit, the next digit is a 9, so you would go up to a 9. The last digit is an 8, so you would go up to a 9. So we're just going to write this with repeating 8s. Negative 17/11 would be a negative decimal. 17 divided by 11. And I'm getting 1.5454545454. So this is going to be 1 and 54/100, but those two digits continue to repeat. So that's the way you write a repeating decimal. Now we're going to convert fractions to decimals with rounding. So these are decimals that they may repeat, or they may be just non-terminating, non-repeating decimals. So we'll see. This first one, we're going to round to the tenths place, so we know that that's what our answer is going to look like. So 162 divided by 7. And I get 23.14285714, and it probably goes on beyond this. So I'm going to round this to the nearest tenth. So I have 21 and 1/10 or 4/10. Well, the next digit's a 4, so I'm going to eliminate those. So, 23 and 1/10. This next one, we're rounding to the hundreds place. I know it's going to be a negative decimal. So 21 divided by 31. And I get 0.677419355, and I want it to be hundreds place. So I know I'm going to have two digits, and I either have 67 hundredths or 68 hundredths, and the next digit is a 7. So this is going to be 68 hundredths, negative 68 hundredths. Now we're rounding again to the tenths place, so I know what that's going to look like. 9 divided by 7 is 1.285714286, but I'm rounding that to the nearest tenth. So it's 1 2/10 or 3/10, and the digit after the 2 is an 8, so I'm going to go up to 1 3/10. That's an approximation. Now we have another negative, and we're going to round it to the hundredths place. So this is going to be negative 17 divided by 37. And we get decimal point 459459459. It's actually a repeating decimal, but they want us to round it to the hundredths place. So it's either going to be 45 or 46 hundredths. 9 is the next digit. So we have 46 hundredths, negative 46 hundredths. Okay, we're going to write the decimal now. We're going to write decimals as fractions. So you're going to write the decimal as a fraction. This should be as a fraction. Little typing error. I don't know who did this. And then reduce the fraction to the lowest terms. So the way I like to remember this is read it. You read the decimal. You write it as a fraction. And then, of course, you reduce it if you can. So we have 475 thousandths. So we're going to write that as a fraction. Remember, the decimals they're all fractions that end in either 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, and so forth. So we read this, 475 thousandths, and then we wrote it as a fraction. And now we're going to simplify that. We can divide top and bottom by 25. We have 16, 17, 18, 19 over 40. This is negative 1 25 hundredths. So it's negative 1 25 hundredths. We just read this, and now we're writing it as a fraction. And we can divide the numerator and denominator by 25. And we know that that is negative 1 1/4. 875 thousandths. So 875 over 1,000. 875 thousandths, 875 thousandths. And we can simplify that. I know I can divide the numerator and denominator by 25, or I can use my calculator and I can put in this fraction, 875 ABC 1,000. And when I hit enter, it'll reduce it for me to 7/8. You can do this. You can divide both of them by 25, and then simplify that by I think them both by 5 again. So you'd probably divide both of those by 125 if you wanted to do it in one step. Okay, this next one, negative 1 55 over 100. 1 55 hundredths. So we can divide both of those by 5. So we end up with negative 1 11/20. And you'll be able to use your calculator to help you with this if you have trouble simplifying these. Your book provided a nice little chart. Several fractions are used quite often, and their decimal forms are worth memorizing. So this is something, some of these you already know. A fourth is 25 hundredths, a half is 5 tenths, 3/4 is 75 hundredths. Then they have the ninths, and these follow a pattern. 1/9 is 0.1 with the 1 repeating. 2/9 is 0.2 with the 2 repeating. 3/9 would be the same as 1/3, and that is 0.3 with the 3 repeating. 4/9 is 4 repeating. 5/9 is 5 repeating. 6/9 is 6 repeating, and that's also 2/3. 7/9, 8/9. So we'll just use our chart to answer these. 0.7 repeating, this would be 7/9. 0.3 repeating would be, it could be 3/9, and you would simplify that to 1/3. This would be 8/9. So those are pretty simple. Coming unglued here. Now we're going to put these decimals and fractions in order, and the best thing to do would be to write each number either in decimal form or, if possible, to compare. So we're going to do that. Somehow, I don't know where that came from, and this needs another digit on it at least, because these two would be equal. So we just fixed our problems a little bit. Now, this is a fraction, but we're going to change it to a decimal, and we know that that is 5 tenths. So I'm going to stack these on top of each other. And if it helps you, you can fill in some zeros. I mean, I wouldn't need to, but if that makes you happy, then you can do that. And we're going to start comparing at the most powerful place, which is the ones place, and the tenths place. And these two are the same. We're going from least to greatest. So the 4s are the same, the 5s are the same. When we get to the thousands place, this is the smaller one. And the next would be 451 thousandths, and then 5 tenths, or you can write it as 1/2 because that's the way it is in the problem. Okay, let's look at the next one. We have 161 thousandths, and we have 1/6. So let's change this to a decimal, 1 divided by 6. And what we get is this. And it goes on, but my calculator will round that last digit to a 7 because 6s means go up. And then we have this one. So let's line these up on top of each other. I'm just repeating this so I can see that the next digit is 6. Okay, we begin comparing, and these are the same, the tenths are the same, the hundreds are the same. But when we get to the thousandths digit, I'm going to fill in with some zeros here, if that makes you happy. So, this is the smallest one. And then we go back and we see same. This would be the next one. And this is the biggest one, and that's really 1/6, isn't it? So we've put those in order. So now we're going to concentrate on the order of operations involving decimals and fractions, and we know about the order of operations. We know we're going to do what's inside the parentheses or other grouping symbols first. Then we're going to do the exponents, square roots, or absolute values next. Multiplication and division comes next, and we do them left to right. And then we have addition and subtraction, and we do those from left to right. So let's take a look down at our first problem. We have 16 4/10 minus this difference squared. So we're going to do what's in parentheses first. 3.2, and we're going to have to square that. So we've done what's in parentheses. Now we're going to do the exponent next, and I'm just going to do that on my calculator. And (10 24/100). And now I'll finish up with the subtraction. If I were doing this on paper, I would need to line up the decimal points, and I do need this 0 because it's on the top. And if I were to subtract, I'd have to borrow. 10 minus 4 is 6, 3 minus 2 is 1, 6 minus 0 is 6. So our final answer is 6 16/16. This next one is very similar to that. We need to do what's in here first. So we would have 1 5/10, and then we have to square that answer, then subtract 2. So 1.5 squared would be 2 25/100 minus 2. And we know if we line those up, we can either fill these in or not. That's up to us. And our answer is 25/100. Now we get down to the next one, and we have a mixture of a decimal, a mixed number, a fraction. We're still going to use the order of operations, but we have to get them all in the same form. They're having us do this problem twice. We're going to first do it with fractions, and then we're going to do it with the decimal. I'm thinking I'm going to like the decimal better, but we'll do the fractional first. So this number is negative 6 4/10, right? 6 4/10, 6 4/10. And we can simplify that to 2/5. So, and we're going to multiply it by 2 5/8. And then we're going to divide by 3/5 squared. So we know we have to do the squaring first. So 3/5 times 3/5 would be 3 times 3, 5 times 5. And we're going to do the multiplication and division left to right. So we're going to do this first. And we know when we have mixed numbers, we need to change them to an improper fraction. So this is going to be negative 6 times 5 would be 30 plus 2 would be 32/5 times 2 times 8 would be 16 plus 5 would be 31/8. And then we'll be dividing by 9/25. And I'm going to just change that. Now, we don't divide fractions. Instead, we multiply by the reciprocal. And I'm doing this right now so that I have the 3 factors that I'll be using, and I have more choices of how to do my canceling now that I'm in multiplication. So let's take a look. We can divide 32 and 8 both by 8. We can divide 5 and 25 by 5. We can, this should be 21, sorry. We can divide 9 and 21 by 3. So now we have 4 times 7 times 5 on the top, and I'm going to go to my calculator. I'm going to put in 28 times 5. And I get 140 for the top. 1 times 1 times 3 would be 3 for the bottom. And we have one negative, so it's going to be negative. We can leave it like that. We can change it to an improper fraction. That would be fine too. And we would get negative 46 and 2/3 if we want it as a mixed number. Or we would get negative 46 with the 6 repeating in the decimal point. So any of those three answers would be fine with me. So now let's convert all the numbers to decimals. So 6 4/10 would be negative 6 4/10 times 2 5/8. That's 2.58. 5 divided by 8 is 625. And we're going to be dividing by 3/5, which is 6/10, but we have to square that first. So we're going to do this exponent first. And 6/10 times 6/10 would be 36 hundredths. So now let's do the multiplication. I can do that on my calculator. I know it's going to be negative because the signs are different. So I get negative 16 8/10, and I'm going to divide that by 36 hundredths. And I get negative 46.6 repeating, which is the same as that. Or we know that this is negative 46 2/3. And if we change it to an improper fraction, that's what we would get. Okay, we have one more to do. We have a decimal, a fraction, and it tells us that 3/13 is a fraction that's not a decimal with an end. So that's not going to be a good decimal to use. It's going to be, if I divided 3 divided by 13, I get 0.230769231, and it goes on beyond that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to a fraction. So I have negative 2 6/10, which would be the same as negative 2 3/5. So negative 2 3/5 times 3/13 plus 3/5 squared. So I'm going to change this to an improper fraction. And now I'm going to square this, which is really what I'm doing first, but I'm just copying those down. 3/5 times 3/5 would be 9/25. So we got to do this first. I'm just going to do this over here where I have a little more room. Okay, I'm going to do this first, and I'm looking for canceling always. I can divide 13 and 13 both by 13. So I have negative, because the signs are different, 3/5 plus 9/25. So we're adding, we have to have common denominators, and I'm going to use 25. So 9/25 is already done. We'd multiply 5 times 5 to get 25. So 3 times 5 is 15. So I have 15 negatives and 9 positives. It looks like I've got negative 6/25 for my final answer. One last thing on this lesson, we're going to be evaluating an algebraic expression. We're going to be talking about the area of a triangle. We know the formula. We've learned that. And now we're going to do the substitution. And because the base and the height of this triangle are in decimals, we might want to use a decimal for 1/2. 6 8/10, 4 2/10. I really didn't leave enough room, did I? So I'm just going to multiply that on my calculator. Times 4.2. And I'm getting, I don't know what that S is there for, 14 28/100. Remember, area is figured in square units, so these would be square feet. Remember, these are always in square units. And that's what I have, right? So that finishes up 5/5.